Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning back in. I wanted to take a quick moment to shoot a quick video about something that's arose between family members, neighbors, friends of mine that you may not take into accountability on a lot of newer bikes. And what I mean by newer bikes is basically just about anything that has a key fob. I believe on most of the bikes on Harley Davidson, they released these in 2006 and 2008. This is the same key fob and same key setup that the Road Glide has. Now again, the Road Glide is a 2015 special. It's the same exact thing, the same exact setup that my 2008 Deluxe Anniversary FLSTN has. Now on a lot of the newer bikes, you actually have the key fob and the key to lock the forks and the bags all in one. It's a kind of a switchblade action, but they're all the same concept. Now the biggest thing was that we'll get to here in a moment is your bike not starting and you're getting power to the bike. You go to, the Deluxe, it's right here on the Road Glide, it's up here near the gauges. When you go to turn that and engage the ignition, everything lights up, just like if you're in a car, right? All your lights come on, but when you go to hit the ignition, nothing happens. It's almost, now some on the other ones, like on my uncle's Ultra Classic, he went to go hit the button and the lights went out. And then he had to turn the ignition back off and turn it back on and try it again. Now, that we actually thought was the battery, believe it or not. And I get a phone call from a buddy of mine the other day on his 2008 Harley Davidson Fat Bob, and he's running into the same issue, but when he goes to cut it on, wants to go start it, he said it's like it wants to start, but it won't do anything. When my neighbor ran into a similar issue, his was on his 2015 Ultra Classic, and it just didn't want to do much at all when you cut the ignition on. It just didn't want to start, as it just wasn't getting a connection. Now, on these key fobs, again, what they do is they're syncing up to your security on your bike, right? And they're trying to connect the key, that the key's there physically present, bypass the security and actually say, okay, this is my owner, this is my rider, I'm going to start. Well, the problem with that is, if your battery is just slightly dying, it's not getting enough power. Now, on some of these on the back of them, it'll tell you what battery to use. Basically, on most of the ones that I've encountered, it's a 2032 battery. You can pick up a 4-pack from Walmart for $12. You can replace both keys on this one, on the battery, both keys on that one. Now, the Y Sportster only has a key because it actually goes into the ignition. There's no fancy setup, that's any different. So as long as she's got her key, it will start the bike. That's all that matters, right? But on the other bikes that have transponders, make sure you're replacing your batteries, guys and gals. I replace my batteries once every year, and I keep my keys far enough away from my bikes inside the house hung up that they're not syncing up one another. If you leave your keys in your bag, it's going to constantly be reading that from security. Your battery might die a little faster. It might last the full year. If you keep your keys away from your bike, it may last even longer than a year. That's not really what I'm after. $12 a year for 2 bikes and 4 key fobs is pretty cheap. Now, I've actually got my Jeep keys here for another reason too, is because this doesn't just work on motorcycles. This has a lot to do with vehicles. Now, Jeeps are a little different. They're very funny. This is on my 2004 Jeep. This one actually has a transponder in the key that's programmed on this one. I have not had this new aftermarket key fob program just yet, but the key is programmed, so I couldn't lock the Jeep with and without this, but the key, this one's actually programmed where I could start the Jeep. Now this one doesn't have a battery inside of it, as far as I know it doesn't. And a lot of your older keys too that they started making for vehicles, they were the exact same way. If the key had a battery inside, it wouldn't start it with that battery being dead because it's syncing up to the security system. Not so much as particular as a motorcycle, because bikes are a lot easier to steal than vehicles, right? Unless you work in the insurance industry, then you might be like, yeah, like myself, you might beg to differ on that one. But as far as the bikes goes, what I really wanted to do is just say replace your batteries in your key fobs, guys. The day that I brought this bike home, the first thing that I did when I brought it home was change the batteries in the key fobs. I actually do keep a 4-pack of batteries in my bag at all times, at least 1 battery at all times. That's brand new in the packaging, so if I get somewhere and the bike won't start, that's my go-to, because if my battery's going dead, I've got a probably an issue with my charging system. I may not even lean to my battery for that. Luckily, both of these bikes, I don't know about this Sportster, I need to check. Both of these bikes have brand new batteries. Definitely checking your batteries, keeping them on a battery tender. Most bikes have a charge time for about 10 days where you can hop on it and start it without a battery tender. Keeping a battery tender on your bike is keeping it conditioned over time, so it's going to last you longer. So definitely think about investing in a $20 to $25 battery tender, guys. It'll save you a lot of hassle down the road. But again, all three, my uncle, my neighbor, which is a good friend of ours as well, and also a buddy that called me the other day while I was working, all three of them had their issues resolved by replacing your battery. So definitely look into that. Look into some batteries. I think we use Energizer Plus or something like that. But again, thanks for viewing. Hit thumbs up and subscribe. We've got more videos coming. Stay tuned, guys, and happy riding.